This is the Endeavor Archetype, and it's on the table under the pretty lights. Just giving you a look on a few things that we don't cover in the reviews, and I'm too lazy to edit. I feel this should be its own review anyways. You can see it's just got a really unique shape. It's, got a big nose going into a narrow swallowtail, but it's a long cut, and it looks really surfy, really tapered, really directional, but has a much more centered feel when you're on it, and that's kind of cool. It's, it's not good or bad, but if you're expecting really surfy off the tail, for Endeavor's line, yes, but in comparison to many surfy off the tail boards we rode, we didn't find that. But it was kind of a cool surprise, especially on Groomers, because this thing just rails turns on Groomers and does a great job. And then this does sink a little better than all the other Endeavor boards in powder and has good directional float, while still feeling like you're a little more centered, a little more ready to launch off something and land it without just being so far back on the tail that it's weird. It's, it's kind of doing its own thing there, which is really cool. Let's get a look at this camber profile. You can see it's got a nice healthy bow of camber going back to this tail. And then, it has just a mellow transition into just a touch of, directional camber, maybe just a touch of early rise. But it feels almost like full camber. And let's do what the readers have requested me to do. Give you the width here from the little arrow on each end from the tail. You're looking at about 26, 6, about there. And then about 25, just about 26, 25, 9, 26. And then up on the nose, should be a little wider. Yep, 27, probably 3. Yeah, just about 27.2, 27.3. And then as you get all the way up here, you're looking at just about 28.2, 28.3, somewhere around there. Now, if you want to set this back and you want to see how much setback on board there is compared to many, alternative free ride boards, kind of unique shapes like this, you're looking at a difference between nose and tail at a 22-inch reference stance back on board, going all the way back, as far back as you can go, and it'll be about a 22-inch stance width. You're looking at a 7-inch difference between nose and tail, or about 3.5 inches back on board, measuring it this way. And if you can only get, let's say you have EST bindings that have to mount on the outside and don't slide as far back, you might only be able to get to the triple arrow here. And if you do, then you're looking at 6 inches difference between nose and tail and 3 inches back on board, which is pretty far. But when you see a lot of boards like with swallowtails like this, a real big cut in that we've ridden are usually like, let me just grab something else here. You can just see, like, this is just kind of like, look at that. I mean, you're just like right on the tail. You're so far back. And then you look at this and you really ride a lot more centered. There's a lot more board left in the ride there. And there's a lot more tail left. So you're back pretty far for Endeavor, but in the grand scheme of things, you're not that far back. Some boards are like 10, 12 inches difference between nose and tail, some even 15. So it's not as surfy as you would think, but it definitely lands much better if you launch. So that's kind of the compromise there. But you can still slash around. I got really surfy with this set all the way back and had a good time. But coming from those super powder boards to this, it did tomahawk on occasion for me. But as far as it goes, it's a great floater. Great base here. And all in all, just a really unique, really interesting ride that looks super surfy, but when you get on it, you get a lot of directional love, and it's not the kind of board you want to just get for powder. You want to get this to ride groomers and powder. This carves the hell out of groomers. This tail really does its job when the powder's gone, and it really jams. It was probably my favorite board to turn on groomers with of their powder quiver line. I liked it just as much or more than the Scout and more than the Maverick. I felt it was just a kind of a nice in-betweener. It really had great drive, great pop, great spring out of the turn, and then also did a pretty good job in powder. It wasn't, like I said, you know, like coming off of some ultra super mega floaters on a powder day, and then going to this, I tomahawked right off the bat because the other boards were just so easy to float. You have to put a little bit of back leg weight on there to get to keep the nose up. You have to be a little more like this, but it's still a very, very good floater, especially in comparison to Endeavor's line. This is the floatiest, the easiest floating, and compared to most boards, it's definitely on the floatier side. I was just riding it against some of the best of the best. But, you know, fast, easy gliding, easily repairable base. You know, the Endeavor Archetype.